The reversal of green policy is on full display at the United Nations Convention on Climate Change in Brazil. Only 74 countries, representing less than half of all those in attendance, submitted updated strategies to show how they intend to meet emissions reduction targets that were set out by the Paris Agreement. The backsliding efforts align with U.S. President Donald Trump's own efforts to dismantle climate policy, including pulling out of the UN Convention altogether. So joining us with more this morning on what this means for climate change is Professor of Political Science at the University of Toronto, Jessica Green. Welcome to your morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
First of all, explain for us, how unusual is it for only 74 countries to have submitted their agreements?
I would say it's unusual. Usually we see most countries submitting their NDCs, so this is not a great signal in terms of the level of interest and commitment in carrying through the goals of the Paris Agreement, which is to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius.
The UN Environment Program notes that even if all NDCs were implemented today, they'd only reduce global emissions in 2035 by about 15% relative to the levels in 2019. So the target under the Paris Agreement is 55%. So set this up for us. What happens if global temperatures rise beyond that 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold?
That's right. And I should add that the UNEP report also says that we're on track for between 2.3 and 2.8 degrees of warming by the end of the century, which is obviously way above the 1.5 and will put us on track for some really devastating effects. Now, I'm not a climate scientist, but I've read a lot of the climate science, and basically what it means is, first of all, more of the same. So we'll see more extreme weather events, more fires, more floods, more hurricanes, with huge damage to loss of life and economic damage as well. But we're also getting to the point of unknown unknowns, right? So we know that climate systems don't work in a linear fashion, and that there are tipping points, at which point, we get more and more positive feedbacks. And so we don't know when we'll reach those. And that's what's really terrifying about blowing through this 1.5 degree target.
If you've just joined us this morning, you're watching a live look out of Brazil. This is where the COP30 summit is happening right now. This is just outside the conference center. The Trump presidency is making it difficult for many countries to fulfill their climate goals. And we saw that when he threatened tariffs against countries that supported the implementation of global carbon tax on shipping. So how can the global community work around him?
Well, I think actually here there is another way of thinking about this, which is much more optimistic, right? The U.S. is not interested in doing anything on climate change. They're not sending anyone to the COP, which in my opinion is a good thing, because otherwise they'll just be an agent of chaos. I think there's plenty that countries can do without the U.S. I mean, the G7 meeting in Toronto just a few days ago is an example of that. There was an agreement to work on a critical minerals production group to accelerate the production of inputs that we need for renewable energy. So I think there's a lot that countries can do when they cooperate with each other, but they don't have to include the U.S., and that's just fine.
Canada, as you know, is locked in this trade war with the United States, and the economic declines that we've seen as a result have pushed climate policy way into the back burner. Ottawa has torn up the consumer carbon tax. They prioritized liquefied natural gas project, and they spoke about reviving the Keystone XL oil pipeline. So I'm curious, how surprised are you by Prime Minister Mark Carney's reversal on climate policy since taking office?
Well, I have to say I'm not surprised at all. I mean, everybody says, oh, well, Carney was, a climate guy. And it's true, he was a climate guy once upon a time before he was prime minister, but he always advocated for market solutions. So this is, I think, not a break with his past work on climate change. I can't say that I'm excited about it. I mean, I think that, all of the things that you said are correct, and we need to be doubling down on clean energy and decarbonization if we're going to have a sound economic future for this country. And Carney seems to be waffling on that at the best case scenario. So I'm not surprised, but I'm not happy.
Fair. Well said. Jessica Green, Professor of Political Science at the University of Toronto. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.